Shagah Zakerion, self-described chief everything officer at your own consulting agency. You're an executive coach. You're a facilitator. You're a speaker and a trainer.
Hmm.
And most recently, you've been sharing your own personal journey battling cancer. So, first of all, thank you so much for joining In Depth with Dion.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Well, I know we've been trying, and I'm grateful that we finally made it happen. I feel like I
Yes.
say this with every guest because scheduling with me is always crazy, but I'm so grateful to have this conversation with you. And I want to start by just asking you, why did you decide to start sharing your journey on social media?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, anyone who knows me knows that cancer is not a new experience for me. I was diagnosed really young as a teenager with a very rare blood cancer. And so I've kind of lived my life as a cancer person, as I call myself. I've really been dealing with disease for 21 years.
Mm,
And I really found comfort in the support shown on social media. It's a great avenue for connecting people to, like, in my inner circle with updates. But more broadly, I think the last couple years, especially with my relapse in 2019, I really found that the world kind of needs resources
mm,
and people who have experienced what I've been through. I speak a lot about hope and how hope is such a powerful tool when you're fighting chronic disease. And I think that when you see someone who's been through as much as I've been through, and you can sit in a chair like this and talk about it with such sort of strength and resilience, I think it gives people hope, and
mm,
and that's really what I hope to do through it. And so social media has been just one way where I've talked about the good and the bad, the ugly of what it is to be in the cancer world and to have navigated healthcare and the institutions of healthcare, the financial impacts of healthcare, but
mm.
also the advocacy that comes with it, which has become a big part of my mission as well, is advocating for the change that I think I need to see, to help all patients improve their outcomes and to just make the experience of being a patient in America a little bit easier for everyone.
Hmm. How many times have you relapsed since being diagnosed?
Yeah, I was diagnosed in 17 and I had a stem cell transplant then. And then I relapsed again 10 years later and I had another stem cell transplant with my sister cells. And then 3 years
Wow.
later, relapsed again, and had another stem cell transplant, which is very rare. It's very uncommon for anyone to survive 3 stem cell transplants. And that transplant lasted me about 6 years, and I relapsed last fall again. So I've relapsed 3 times. This is my fourth kind of round with this disease. So
And I'm just trying to wrap my head around this because I had minor kidney failure a few years back,
mm,
and I was in the hospital for like a week or so. And they say men can't handle pain as much as women anyway. And so I was definitely acting like a little baby.
yeah,
And so for you to go through something like this for so long, starting out, as a young person,
yeah.
um, how did you develop the strength? How did you develop the resolve to be like,
Hmm.
look, this is another challenge. Let's go.
Yeah. I've always been the kind of person that's has a lot of resilience and fortitude. Like I just have never seen a challenge as something that can't be overcome.
Mm,
Professionally, personally, like it's just kind of innate into my identity.
hmm,
Someone recently said to me, you always came to challenges with like this perspective of optimism that allowed us to feel like we could overcome it no matter what. I think it's what made me successful early on in my career, that I didn't really come to challenges just complaining about what was wrong. I really came with solutions.
mm,
And when I was a teenager, it's easy, it's I mean cancer's never easy, but it's a lot easier. You kind of come into the disease, you got a whole ecosystem of support around you. You go into these childhood cancer hospitals. I went to St. Jude, which is like a
mm.
bubble of joy and happiness.
I've
And
heard of that one.
so I was kind of ushered into disease through this lens of hope. I mean, that's like the message of St. Jude.
Mm,
It's on the rocks that you walk into the building on. And, I've been in the St. Jude world the entire time. I was diagnosed so early, and the disease that I had at the time, just there was not a facility in Oklahoma that, well, A, they didn't know what to do with it. It's very rare for a young person,
mm,
teenager, to be diagnosed with it. Myelodysplastic syndrome. It's like a bone marrow disease. And so I had to go out of state. That was my first experience. So whenever you go to somewhere like St. Jude, it kind of instills in you this idea that like anything is possible. You know, I was one of the early kids to have stem cell transplant successfully. People,
Wow.
a lot of young people that were in transplant with me didn't survive it. And so whenever you survive the impossible, you sort of, it rewires your brain into believing that anything's possible. So I always say you have to believe it to see it. And I really do live like that. I just trust that I have made it through what I've made it through for a purpose. And that gives me a lot of resolve.
Mm. Now,
Oh, and I will also add
yeah.
that I think watching this conflict in Iran, I think I've been reflecting a lot on that as well as like my people are just really resilient. Like I've been watching them overcome so much. And I was talking with my family about this recently. Like when you watch them continue to show up every day fighting for themselves and their lives and their livelihood, I understand more where I come from and how it's built into my DNA.
Wow. There's so much to unpack right there.
Yeah, yeah,
I want to start with you were on the news last month
yeah.
because there is a nationwide shortage of blood donations,
Mm-hmm.
and it's raising concerns for patients who depend on blood transfusions to survive. Um, my question is, what's a typical week like for you when it comes to treatment,
Yeah.
and how does shortages of blood donations impact you?
Mm-hmm. So this is my first time in all of the 20 years I've had cancer experiences or those milestones where I've sought treatment here in Tulsa.
Oh wow.
So I've
Okay.
always, as a teenager, I went to St. Jude. When I
Hmm.
relapsed, I was diagnosed at St. Jude, but because they don't have facilities to do adult transplants, I moved my care to MD Anderson, had lived in Houston every time I've been treated there. But something like different was happening in my being like last year. I just felt to my core like I did not want to move back to Houston. I just felt like it was time for me to be home and I didn't want to bifurcate my support system. I didn't want to be in two places at once. I didn't want to feel like we were isolated in this kind of place that has so many, it's not necessarily bad memories. I think Houston's been a place that's provided a lot of support for our family, but it's not an easy place to live compared to Tulsa. And my whole family's here. My family's here. My nephews are here. My family and support system are here. My friends are here. And obviously, like having invested so much in Tulsa, just like this community has really lifted me up every time. So to be home meant a lot to me. So I sought a new team out in New York who was like, yeah, you don't need to live in New York unless you want to live in New York. Like we can oversee your care from here. And it gave me an opportunity for the first time to be in Tulsa.
Hmm.
So now I have this like lens of like world class cancer institutions, these experiences where I've never had to question for once being without anything I needed. And now being in a kind of a different environment, we have really great cancer centers here,
Hmm.
but they're not comprehensive. So MD Anderson has its own blood bank, its own blood donation
Wow.
center. You are in an ER in if you're admitted into their hospital. Like they're an ecosystem of support for cancer care. But what we have here is much more sort of fragmented. So you
Hmm.
go to the cancer center, you see your cancer doctor. Maybe you get your chemotherapy there, but you can't get your blood transfusions there. You have to go to the hospital for that.
Hmm.
And if you need a procedure done or you need a test done, like they're outsourcing those things to a partner. And so for the first time, I'm kind of navigating some of these systems separately outside of this sort of holistic environment. And I think what I've realized very quickly is there's so much more that could affect the outcome of my care here
Hmm.
that I didn't really appreciate before. There's a lot of pluses too. I mean, I think being in a small care, like I know everyone on the teams everywhere I go, and there's a lot more personal investment in the outcomes or like day-to-day care of my needs. I have the text message, I can text message my nurse. Like things
Hmm.
like that just aren't possible in
Trust is important.
yeah, it's not possible in a system like MD Anderson. Um, but all that to say, I think one of the first things I encountered was a challenge that actually I think is what connected us, which was we can talk about in a little bit, was my issue getting my bone marrow biopsy here. But the second one was the shortage in blood cancer or blood products. And again, I've never had to think about it before. It was just always available to me. And I never had to question where it came from. They had their own blood bank. They would, doctors, nurses, parents, family members, community members were always showing up to donate as a part of the kind of environment there. So I faced my first kind of reality with this about a month and a half ago, where I showed up to get my blood products and I wasn't able to get it. So for as part of my care, I get it. I as part of my care, I get IV chemotherapy once a month. So I
Okay.
get do that for 1 week. And I do an oral chemotherapy drug for 3 weeks, kind of at the same time. But because of that, my blood counts drop.
Hmm.
So Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm getting labs done to see what sort of blood replacement products I need. So these are genuinely life sustaining. Like, if my worst fear is that there's some sort of conflict that makes blood products obsolete, like I will die. Like, that is the outcome that happens. There is no alternative for me. So I'm day to day relying on this. I got blood and platelets yesterday.
Hmm.
It's just a byproduct of blood cancer. Anyone who has Hodgkin's lymphoma, leukemia, myelodysplastic syndrome, anyone who's going through a really suppressive chemotherapy regimen, even if they're not in a blood cancer, could experience a drop in their own production of their own cells.
I didn't
So,
know that.
yeah, so you really are dependent upon donors to be able to support that. But I walked into a treatment and they said, we have one bag of platelets and three patients that need them. So if your platelets aren't low enough,
Hmm.
we're going to give this back to basically to the lowest, the patient with the highest need.
They had to triage the plate. The
They had to triage that. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I said, well, what's going on? This was right after that kind of ice storm swept through the South. And they said, well, we've had this storm and it just delays everything. Everyone that comes in regularly stops coming in, and
Wow, one storm
one
can.
storm. Yeah, one storm. For it's taken 3 months to refresh the blood supply. So the banks are, I think they're back to normal.
Mhm.
Like, platelets are still the thing that's the hardest because it takes longer for donors and
Right.
is the least likely for someone to do on their lunch break, right? They can't go do a platelet donation on your lunch break, but you can do blood donation in 15 minutes.
Mm.
So it's just a lot of layers. But that, to me, the thing that really radicalized me was that experience where I realized, oh my gosh, like I'm actually facing a moment where, like, something that's external is impacting my ability to get what I need. How many other patients are being affected by this here in Tulsa? But then beyond that, I was online reading the comments, which I don't ever recommend. But I was reading the comments on a post about the shortage, and someone said, uh, a gentleman wrote, if people would just stop driving so recklessly and getting into catastrophic car wrecks and ending up in the ER, maybe we wouldn't be at such a shortage. And I thought, man, this person is so ignorant, right? They don't even know the reality of how these products get
Mhm.
used. That is the smallest fraction of the number or the ways that your donations go to. Like, catastrophic, absolutely, ER things happen. But the majority of the times that these blood products are used are in planned surgeries,
Mhm.
uh, cancer treatment, like mine, women having in childbirth, right? They lose a lot of blood. They may need a blood transfusion just to help support them. That has happened to my sister.
Oh wow.
Um, it's very common instances where you need to have these blood products on call to support a patient through a very routine thing. Um, so I had commented and said that. I said, well, I'm a cancer patient and I just need you to know that I'm reliant on these donations to survive. And it made me realize that there's a lot of misconception about it. And just as who I am, as my history of the advocacy work I've done in our community, and even nationally for a lot of cancer organizations, I just believe that, like, when you see something, you have an obligation to speak about it. And so for me, it was really important to get the message out and help support, uh, getting new donors into the database, getting new people informed, helping connect the dots to my community that, in a lot of ways for cancer patients, it's really hard to find ways to help support them, right? You can send money and, you can support a GoFundMe, or you can buy something off of their wish list, or you can send them a meal, but you can't make the cancer better, right?
Mhm.
But, like, this is a very human way where you can literally help someone who is in need,
Yeah.
and in treatment. So for me, it was like, hey, if you've been asking, how can you help? Like, I'm giving you a very real way as to how you can help, and it's by becoming a donor and kind of overcoming those fears. And it's just so unbelievably heartwarming to see how many people have, like, overcome fears of needles, have never given in their life, have never even thought about it, have really opened up to this like new world and become a donor for the first time and like for life, like have said, this is something I'll prioritize forever.
You know, I feel like a lot of us think of blood donations as something that you do. Like, I remember in high school we had blood drives,
Yeah.
and it was kind of once or twice a year, and then
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't think of it.
Yeah.
Maybe when I know for me, when I need a little extra money in college,
Yeah.
I was going to the CSL Plasma
Yeah.
because they pay you to donate blood,
Yeah.
right? And so I think outside of those instances, a lot of us it never crosses our mind that one donation could mean the difference for someone
Yeah.
else,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's one of the main reasons I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about it, because I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of it really is just just ignorance, just not knowing, you
Totally.
know.
And I think that comes up a lot. So I, obviously I've been on this like media tour kind of talking about my experience and trying to encourage people to donate. And I do spend time in the comments because I want to respond to questions
Mm,
that people have. And one thing people say is like, well, if they would just pay us for it, right? If they would just pay us for the blood, we would give. And that's why people give plasma, right? Well, that plasma is not used for patients. It's used for research.
oh, I did not. So when I was donating plasma, that
Yes.
really wasn't, that was
Plasma
separate.
does not support patients. So plasma is literally used in pharmaceutical research and in all sorts of research, all sorts of scientific
Okay,
research.
you're educating me right now.
Yeah, and that's why they can pay you for it. But
Mhm.
imagine if you have a disease that would keep you from being able to donate blood, but you could get paid for it. Would you check that box?
Ooh.
So the reason we don't pay people to give blood is because we need 100% honesty in what they are giving the information on. And if you are in a dire situation where you need the money, you're going to say whatever you need to say to make that donation happen, which can actually hurt patients in the long run.
Absolutely.
So there's a law against it. It's a donation for a reason. They incentivize it. So
Mhm.
like especially during like right now where we're seeing a shortage, American Red Cross is giving $15 Amazon gift cards, right? So like you can still get incentives for donating,
Mhm.
but it's not like cold hard cash. You're not going to go in and get $150 like you would giving plasma. So there is a big difference, and it's for a
Mm.
purpose.
I feel
Again,
like
that's another thing that I think we've had to dispel the myths around.
that's huge, and that's an
Yeah.
important reason, because we want to help
Mm-hmm.
patients. We don't want to make their situation worse,
Worse,
right?
right?
You
Yeah.
know, you talked a little bit about Iran,
Yeah.
and I know that for some listeners, it might seem odd to jump into a global conflict when we're talking about healthcare, but you talked about how seeing Iranians survive and navigate and remain resilient through the most imaginable um, uh, times that they're going through right now. Um, why does that give you inspiration?
Well, first of all, I contain multitudes, so it's not a surprise to talk about that today. I've always been a very politically involved person, and I, I don't think this is about politics really, but I I think that whenever you come from a country like Iran, my family left everything, right, to come to America for better opportunities, as most immigrants do. I'm a first generation immigrant. I came here when I was 10 months old,
Mm,
directly to Tulsa, and this is a land of opportunity in a way that doesn't exist back home. And that really spoke to especially to my father. My father's an entrepreneur. He's owned restaurants his whole life. He's instilled that in all of us. I think that's why
mm.
I own a business. My older sister owns a business. My little sister works, but also owns a business. She's so everyone kind of has that entrepreneurial bug in them. And I think it comes from where we come from.
Mm,
It's this idea that Iranian people are so much more than what I think the media and the world has allowed the world to see of them. It's a beautifully rich culture. I mean, we
mhm,
have thousands and thousands of years of poetry and math. The history of math starts in Iran. There's so much around language and writing and artistry, and it's just such a beautiful culture, and I'm so proud to be from that culture, to be from there. And I think right now, more the reason I bring it up is just because it's like front of mind, you
Mhm.
know.
For sure.
But it's not new. I think we've watched as our country has really tried time and time again and failed and tried again and failed and tried again to lead a revolution. You
Mm.
know, I worked on Capitol Hill whenever the Green Revolution was happening, where people were really genuinely trying everything that they could to find freedom. And I think that freedom is something that we take for granted in America and have taken for granted.
Yeah.
And I have never taken that for granted. I think freedom comes in many forms. And so freedom, fighting for your freedom in a country like Iran, fighting for freedom for me is like freedom from disease and illness.
Mhm.
And then you have, you know, we're fighting for our freedoms every day in a country that's sort of warping what that could look like. So why do I go to Iran for that? Like encourage that courage and resilience is because it's what I see. It's just what I've experienced. It's what my family has done. They came here with nothing, like nothing. They lived in a house with three families, growing up to move to an apartment with two families, and then eventually get our own apartment, and eventually get our own house. Like I've watched them do whatever it takes to get through those sort of cycles of change and evolution, and fight for what they want. So it's just who I am. It's in my being. It's a part of my DNA to be a fighter, and and I see that every day with
Mm.
what's going on in this conflict and how the people keep showing up for themselves and their families and their dreams. And I think that that's what I do. Every time I show up to treatment, you know, I'm like, all right, you got goals you want to accomplish. It's time to just get through the next cycle of this, to get to the next one.
Mm. I appreciate you sharing that because I feel like one thing I love about whether it's doing interviews or just learning other people's stories is culture sharing,
Mm.
perspective sharing. I feel like it's so powerful. It brings us together. It widens our understanding of the world. And I feel lucky because, you know, um, I've been kind of, we talk about Iran, I've been loosely covering um, uh, the country over the years, mainly starting with the protests around Masa Amini.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was
Yeah.
2022. And that was really the first time that I saw a lot of people in the United States, my peers, trying to understand what was happening in Iran. Um, uh, and even before that, in college, I had taken a class, a cinema class,
Mm.
and I just wanted to do an elective. So I was like,
Yeah.
Iranian cinema, let's do it. And oh my gosh, I'm like,
Yeah.
hold up. We were best friends with Iran
Yeah.
at one time. Like
Yeah.
the country was so much more free.
Mm-hmm.
They had their own kind of Hollywood and art and what we would consider modern, westernized, I guess. Um, but even before then, like the thousands of years of culture, one of the oldest, one of the most ancient cultures in the world, and to realize that a few people in positions of power can really sabotage
Mm-hmm.
thousands of years of progress.
Yeah. I think it's beyond that too. It knowing that also should help explain the fight that this government is going to put up. Like
Mm,
I've been saying this for years, is that the United States being a young country, we work in election cycles.
mhm,
So our planning and precision and strategy is in 4-year cycles, even sometimes in 2-year cycles.
yeah.
You know, midterms influence how we are making policy decisions. In a country as ancient as Iran, they're willing to risk generational outcomes because they are playing the long game.
Mm,
And when you take the Ayatollah out, you replace it. It's the same thing that happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. You may cut the head off the snake, but the snake is going to grow 3 more,
mm,
right? And the reality is the country has been preparing quietly for generations on how to become a world power again. This is their ancient, they believe like they are on a path to achieve that ancient status again.
I see. I see.
Persian Empire,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They want to be empirical status again. So you better believe they have a plan for this.
Hmm.
And I don't think anyone anticipated the fight that they're putting up. I don't think anyone prepared for what the outcome could look like whenever they put that into play. Because again, our president is working in election cycles or
Right.
working in current, trying to make a policy in the moment. Whereas we have this government that's probably been preparing for something like this for a very long time and sees it as their way to exercise the power and influence that they feel their people have been earned.
Hmm. Well, we don't know exactly how that's going to play out, but I do know that I'll be continuing to follow the people
Yeah.
and hope that, you know, they can be empowered to take destiny into their own
Mm.
hands.
Yeah, we don't know how it's going to end either.
Mm.
And I think even among our own family, we speculate and have difference of opinions on what is happening, what's not happening, what's real, what's not real. AI has played a real
Yeah.
interesting role in a global conflict. This is the first time we have AI while we're kind of experiencing this reality, and we can't tell what's real and what's not real. What is an AI video of a strike and an attack, and what is real? I mean, I think it's very difficult for us to understand, is that message from that leader really from that leader,
Mm.
or is it an AI message? So it's kind of distorting what truth looks like. And we've seen this has been a systemic process. It's been, let's disenfranchise the media, right? Let's make everyone question what's truth and what's not truth. So now we can't trust the media. Well, now we're going to start forcing people to question what they see with their own eyes. Is this AI or not AI? Is this real or not real? And so we've set up a circumstance where war becomes something that you feel like you have to decipher what is real or what is not real. When Vietnam War was happening and the first time Americans ever saw a war on camera, you better believe that radicalized them, because it was the first time they've ever seen dead bodies like that through chemical warfare from our own government on another people. Vietnam War ended because of protests. People came out and said, we do not want this, because they saw it with their own eyes. Now we're seeing things with our own eyes and convincing ourselves it's not real, because it's easier than really, I think, absorbing the reality that it's something that our government is actually doing. So it's just, I think it's just such an interesting and complex and confusing. You can talk to 10, you could put 10 Persians around this table today and have this conversation, and every single person would have a different viewpoint, because we're all hearing it through a different lens and absorbing it through a different history and a different reality. And so as an American Iranian, I carry the weight of both the realities my people are experiencing in Iran, which is like, yeah, I want them to be free. Like the idea of taking my family and my best friends to the country I'm from, I've never been able to experience that. I mean, I've only been there one time, because it's never felt safe enough for as an American since to go back. And like, I would love a free Iran. Like, I think the world needs to see the beauty that is my country and experience its richness in history and culture. But at the same time, as an American, I'm watching my government go to war that is completely against the law, without congressional approval. And as an American, I'm like, this is not right. This is not how we go about these things. This is illegal, and this has no justification. So I think that's where many Iranians are carrying that weight, and trying, Iranian Americans especially, is like, how do we show up for our people? How do we support them while understanding that we didn't ask for this, and I don't want my taxpayers going to killing innocent school children in any country. But that was one of our very first bombs landed in a preschool.
Yeah.
So it's complicated.
Mm.
It's complicated.
You talk about showing up.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know you know, you have weekly regimens on
Hmm.
top of your consulting and
Yeah.
on top of just living life, being around family. How do you show up for yourself? And what advice would you give for other people who are, on their own cancer journey?
Hmm. I think the thing that I always come back to when it comes to like protecting your peace
Mm.
and protecting your needs is there's this uh, philosophy, hopefully you can put it up on screen somehow, called the ring theory, which
Okay.
is that the patient's needs are at the center
Hmm.
and everything from the patient moves outwards. And I learned that probably 10 years ago. And it really reframed the way I viewed myself as a patient. I think for a long time, I charged myself with like protecting everyone else around me from the hurt and the harm and the like struggle
Yeah.
without really realizing like I'm the one that needs to be protected from that.
Yeah.
And so I think it really shifted that mindset over the last couple of years to understand like it's not my job to do that. It's
Mm.
my job to take care of myself, to do what I'm supposed to do. Like I view this as a full-time job. This is my job is to take care of
Mm.
myself and to try to do everything I can to improve the outcomes of this treatment. So if you're busy occupied by protecting everyone else around you from seeing how much you're struggling or seeing how much you're hurting or how much you're fatigued, like I don't do that anymore. I'm just like, yep, I don't feel good. I'm going to show up to the family dinner, but I'm not well. Like I'm going to be lounging on the couch, right? I used to be just not show up. But I think it's important that people see you how you are. I mean,
Hmm.
and see like that it's real and that what you're struggling with is very, very real in a day to day. But I also give myself a lot of grace. Like if I need to spend a day on the couch binging some like terrible television to make myself feel better or to like rest, I treasure that. Like I
Yeah.
think, and I give myself the grace to do it. And I think a lot of the time it's cancer patients are just burdened with too much. I've also been really fortunate that I've like found a lot of resources that have allowed me to take the breaks I need to. I've always been, yeah, I always say like follow the energy, and the energy has always led me in the like on the right path.
Hmm.
And I've always been in environments where like the circumstances have been very supportive to my treatment needs, and I've been able to walk away from work and like, of course, like I've had to leave positions because of it. Like I've left almost every role I've ever taken um because my cancer has recurred or I'm unable to do the job because I like physically can't handle the demands of the role. And that is what led to me starting the consulting business. It was like, okay, well, at least I could just manage my own time the way I need to manage it. I can take a nap in the middle of the day without justifying it to an employer. Um, and before I knew it, I was like running a successful business. So
Hey.
sometimes it's like you just have to stop fighting the
Mm.
system so much and just kind of move with where the energy is taking you and where your needs are and trust that it'll work out, which is not it's not reality for most people. And a lot of people are, I see it every day in the comments of like posts and videos I make about my experience. It's like they're really struggling in the world of cancer. There's not as much support, but I've been really fortunate that being an advocate, being a resourceful person, being the kind of person that is like out there connecting the dots, meeting people, finding those resources that help me do what I need to do, has made it to where I can kind of prioritize my needs in a way that I think a lot of people don't have the luxury to. I don't have kids. I'm not married. Like
Mhm.
I think that also has been a blessing in disguise in that I don't have to, I think managing that would be a lot
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
S-
also have a really great mom and family.
mm.
And like my mom's been my caregiver through all of the treatments over the years. She's moved to me with me to Memphis as a kid. She moved to Houston twice with me.
Wow.
Um, and so like, but my caregiving network has grown in Tulsa. Like it's not just my mom. I have like a whole community of people that show up to treatments and bring lunch and sit with me and you know, someone that comes and cleans my house. Like I don't do it alone. And I think that that's the biggest lesson, I think, is to just learn that you should ask for help and like accept it when it shows up and not fight that, which has been the biggest challenge for me because I'm a deeply independent person. And
Mhm.
so even today I was like, gosh, why didn't I tell my mom not to come do these dishes? Like, you know what I mean? Like take the help, accept the
Yeah.
help. And I think the more you do that, the more you open yourself up to the vulnerability of like needing the support,
Mm.
the easier kind of the process of these sort of impossible experiences becomes.
Wow. Well, Shaga, I am so grateful for you just blessing the podcast with your perspective, your wisdom, and your advice. I think it's going to be really impactful for other people. And I guess, how can people tap in with you, whether it's your consulting or any other work that you're doing?
Yeah, I think right now I'm taking a break from work.
Okay.
Cancer treatment right now is a full-time job.
So don't call her, y'all.
Don't call
Don't call
me.
her.
Don't call me. You can call me. I'm gonna probably refer you to someone else. But I've been really fortunate in that I, the circumstances of my care, like I have been able to like go on disability, and I don't
Hmm.
have to be as under as much pressure to work full time, which has been great. And I mostly because I need health care, and so I'm able to do that through disability. But um, how can people connect with me? So for me, I my biggest thing is like I want to use this experience for good, and I'm still figuring out the best way to do that. I think I'm very inconsistent on social networks. I battle being someone who's been online for I don't know 20 years. Like since I could get on Facebook, I was the early adopter, and so I'm sort of like in this like in between phase of figuring out the best way to share my
Mm.
experiences in a way that like honors my need to maybe be less online.
Yeah.
um but I think people that want to connect with me can find me I'm on TikTok, and I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, all of those places. But more than anything, I think it's important that they, um, oh, I will also say that we have a microsite called it's Shagah.card, CARRD
Okay.
.co. And that site has some information about how to give to become a blood donor, how to give to some organizations that have really poured into my life. And for people who want to follow my cancer journey, they can go there.
Perfect.
Maybe can we do that one again? Can you ask that question again?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because
So,
that's actually what I want to answer
okay.
with.
Perfect. So, for people who want to connect with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, I think the best way to connect with me right now is just through my website. We have a microsite called shagah.card.co, and that website has some resources around how to become a first time blood donor. We're still
Mm.
on this campaign to sign up 100 first time donors. I think we're probably close to like 30 or 40. I know anecdotally there have been way more, maybe people who haven't signed up on our forum, but I've seen a lot more come through. And there's some ways to give to organizations that have really poured into my life, make an impact in cancer care. I'm an advocate with American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, and a spokesperson for Blood Cancer United.
Wow.
So those organizations are really important to me.
Hmm.
There's also First Descents, which is a cancer support group for young adults experiencing cancer. It's an adventure program, so they get to sign up and go on an outdoor adventure. I did whitewater, learned how to whitewater kayak, and I volunteer kind of every other year with that program, to help expose other people to those experiences that help them live outside their bodies during
Mm.
cancer care. So there's resources like that telling you
Yeah.
a little bit more about those organizations that meant a lot to me over the years. And then if you want to just follow the journey, we have a little form you can fill out, and I send out weekly updates via email about what's going on with me and how people can support and show up, and um, really just trying to get well and get to a
Hmm.
place where I can go back to doing what I do best, which is giving back to my community, supporting my clients, and my the people I work with, and just doing what I do.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what I'm focused on right now is just getting well and figuring out what comes next. I think when I got diagnosed 20 years ago, 21 years ago now, there was not a lot of hope that I would last as long as I have. The average lifespan for someone with my disease is 11 years, and I'm at 21 years. And so every day is a blessing. I'm just grateful for it. Every day that I get to wake up and do this thing, and I just want to make something meaningful out of it. So that's what I hope to do with this free time I have now. I am full time a cancer patient, but I do get a couple of days off a week, and so I'm trying to figure out now how to like package that story in a way that can help other people improve their own experiences and learn from mine.
Wow. I think you're doing it. You're doing it every day.
Thank you.
And I'm just grateful to be one more person to help amplify your message and hope that it meets the people who need to hear it.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so grateful. And I'm glad to be on this. I mean, I've been a listener from afar for a long time. So
I
it's
appreciate
an
it.
honor to be with you today. And I'm just grateful for the support.
You're so brave.
Thank you.
Mostly I'm saying that because I would never go whitewater rafting. You couldn't pay me.
To be honest, I didn't even know what it was when I did it and I signed up for it. I just was like, oh, this sounds fun. I can do kayaking.
Mm.
And then no one tells you that they strap you into like a wetsuit and you're bored and they flip you over and they make you wet release. And that is the
Oh,
most terrifying experience in my life. But again, it's like, these are the experiences that lead to me understanding that like your mind can work over, like mind over matter is real. And that experience, the reason why I love it is, and I talk about it, is because it's one of those formative things that tells you like, you realize you can get through so much. Like I'm in a whitewater kayaking experience going down level 3 or level 4 rapids with someone that's in terminal brain cancer that died 3 days later,
wow.
going through the same rapids. Like your body is capable of wonderful, incredible, miraculous things. I'm a living miracle. And I thank my body every day for what it's been through and what it continues to do. But those experiences are things like when you ask me what forms my resilience or who I am and how I keep doing it, it's like those experiences, like it changes your life to see someone go through that and like overcome so much and be able to push their bodies to the extreme. It's really beautiful.
Shagah,
Yeah.
Zakerion, thank you so much for
Thank
joining In Depth
you.
with Dion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dion.